I'm going to start this video by getting right to the point. If you enjoy reading a lot and you're in the market for a new Kindle, do not buy the Kindle Paperwhite. In this video, I'll be going through all the differences between the Paperwhite and the Oasis over here and telling you why it's totally worth the extra $130 to get the Oasis model versus the Paperwhite model. Hi there, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Maneetpaul Singh. On this channel, we explore tech and how to use it to get things done, and owning a Kindle has been an absolute lifesaver for getting things done and reading more books. Now, I won't bore you with all the details right now, but if you want to know more about the Kindle, if you're a first-time buyer, I have a whole video dedicated to comparing the Kindle versus reading physical books. I made that video last year when I first bought my Kindle. Link for that somewhere on the screen. I've had my Kindle Oasis now for over a year, and I recently bought the Kindle Paperwhite just for the purposes of trying it out and comparing it to the Oasis model, and oh my god, it was a complete nightmare to use. Now, that doesn't mean the Kindle Paperwhite is not for everybody. If you're one of these two people, I would recommend the Paperwhite. If you're on a budget, this Kindle Paperwhite is a great option. $120 versus $250 for the Oasis model. Very big price difference. But secondly, if you don't read that much, the Paperwhite is also a good option. But if you read a lot like I do every single day, it's totally worth the upgrade to the Oasis model, and I'll be explaining exactly why right now. Now, the biggest deal breaker for me is the Paperwhite does not have any warm light control like the Oasis model does. The biggest difference here is the Oasis has such a better screen. 25 LEDs for brightness control, but also changing it between a light blue light and a warm orangish color light. The Paperwhite only has 5 LEDs and it does not have any warm temperature control. It's only a blue light. If you ever use the night shift option on your phone, especially at night before going to bed, you know how big of a difference this makes. The Paperwhite is only blue light no matter what time of day you're in. The Oasis model can switch between the two, and if you read at night, this is really important. It really does impact your sleep. Now, putting the color temperature aside for the display, one more big deal breaker is the Paperwhite has no ambient light sensor. That means you have to manually adjust the brightness every single time you go to a new environment. If you change rooms in your house, sit next to the window and then go to your bedroom, whatever it might be, every single time you do that, you'll probably have to adjust the brightness. With the Oasis model, it's all done automatically. You can just simply walk to one room to another, and the ambient light sensor will automatically adjust the brightness according to the brightness of the room. The last thing you want to be worrying about while you're reading a book is changing the brightness every 10 seconds because you can't get it just right. Just like your phone, it's not something you really want to worry about. You want it done automatically for you. While we're talking about the display, both the Kindle Paperwhite and the Oasis have a 300 ppi display resolution, meaning they're both very crispy when it comes to the text. Nothing wrong with that. But one big difference again is the Oasis has a 7-inch screen and the Paperwhite only has a 6-inch screen. On paper, this does not sound like a big difference, but when you're reading a book on your Kindle, this 1 inch makes a huge difference. While reading on the Oasis model, you have so much more text on the screen at any given time. It really feels like you have a full page of text on your screen. When you put it next to the Paperwhite, it just looks so much smaller. There's not nearly as much text, and it makes a big difference if you highlight a lot too. One more thing I find really annoying about the Paperwhite is the bezels. On the top and the bottom, you have these giant bezels that take up, I would say, like an inch of screen space right there, and you really need them there because there's nowhere else to put your thumb or your hand to hold the Paperwhite, so it really does require these large bezels. But even on the left and right, there's still large bezels there too. On the Oasis, every side of the bezel here is perfectly thin and small, except for the right side. That is a larger bezel for your hand to rest on, so you don't even see it. The rest of the screen has small bezels, and that does make a big difference in terms of being distracted while you're reading. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I really do not like these large bezels. I had an iMac before too, and I recently got a new monitor for my computer setup, and now that I have a smaller bezel on my screen, I can't even think about going back to an iMac. It's just one of those things, once you change it to a smaller bezel, it's really hard to go back to a larger bezel. One other small detail that I realized about the Oasis model is it actually has auto rotation. I've actually used this a few times. If I want to rotate my hand or rotate the screen when I change my hand, that really does help. The Paperwhite doesn't have auto rotation. It has all these little things that are missing from the Oasis model, all these quality of life things that you really just kind of expect for any device these days to have. The Paperwhite just doesn't have them. Let's talk about design and build quality for just 1 minute here. The Paperwhite has this really awkward design element. The power button is at the bottom next to the charging port. I've never really seen that on any other device before. And on top of that, one thing, I don't know why it's doing this, but on my Paperwhite, I have to swipe to unlock after I press that power button, whereas the Oasis model, I press the power button once and then I go right to my book. There's this extra layer of swiping to unlock. I'm not sure if that's because I bought the model with special offers built in, basically meaning there are ads on the screensaver, whereas my Oasis model, I pay the extra $20 not to have that. I'm not too sure if it's because of that or because the Paperwhite is just a weird device. After doing some research, I also realized the Oasis has a better processor compared to the Paperwhite model. I don't really see much of a difference using it compared to the Paperwhite. There is a small difference between changing pages, it loading a little bit faster, but overall, this is not a deal breaker for me. Going back to design, the Paperwhite does not have any page turn buttons, whereas the Oasis model does have page turn buttons. I don't think, again, this is not a deal breaker. The Oasis is nice to have them, but the touchscreen is fine for changing pages. I didn't actually use the page turn buttons as much as I thought I would, but it just seems like a silly thing. There's 2 buttons. Why can't they have 2 more buttons on the Paperwhite to have that feature there? Again, small things that are missing. The biggest difference in terms of build quality is the Oasis model is an all metal design, whereas the Paperwhite model has a plastic rubbery feeling on the back of it. This is something that is a big difference if you like that premium feel. The Oasis model is the only one you're gonna have to get for that. But honestly, the Paperwhite does not feel that bad in my hand. It feels durable. I feel like I throw it around my bag. I don't feel like I have to protect it too much. Whereas the Oasis model, I bought a case for it because it feels like I want to protect it. Like buying a new iPhone, you don't want that thing just living around without a case on it. You want to get a case. Same thing with the Oasis. In terms of a few other small things, both devices are not USB-C. They're both micro USB, which just blows my mind. In 2021, we're still using micro USB. I really hope that changes in the future. And also, the Oasis model comes in a black and gold option. I do think the Paperwhite has better color options. I got the blue one. I do enjoy that. But having nice colors alone does not make the Paperwhite worth buying. If you are an avid reader and you want to invest a little bit of money into something you'll be using for a long time ahead, I would strongly recommend purchasing the Oasis model over the Paperwhite. Is totally worth the extra $130 just so you have a device that you know will last you for a while, especially if you want to invest in your reading habit. Just that color temperature display, the bigger display, the better build quality, it all adds up tremendously. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about the Oasis, I have a full in-depth review from when I bought it. I go through every single part of the unboxing experience to all the features and settings that I changed after I opened it up for the first time. Check that out, link on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.